Welcome to Sisters in Arms. I'm Carrie Ann Alclair.
And I'm Renee Gagne, and together we serve as a Second Amendment resource for the communities of Massachusetts.
So what's up with you, girlfriend?
Episode 9 already.
I know.
Holy smokes.
It's awesome.
It is.
We have done and interviewed so many amazing
Yeah.
people, and I'm really excited to be able to continue our journey.
I don't want to take up too much time with this story, but over the weekend I went to New York City. When you're carrying and you can't carry, don't you feel a little vulnerable?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Like you feel like you're naked or something.
Even with just pepper spray, you know, it's not right.
Yeah, it feels weird. So New York City, obviously I can't carry, right? So we went to the observational tower, 1,700 feet up, I believe, in an elevator. Holy smokes.
Oh, I would have definitely been freaking out right there.
The views of the city are amazing, but we had to go through a metal detector. And it was then, and only then, that I realized I had other things in my pocket.
What did you have?
So I said, I'm committing now. So I just put it through and figured we'd see what happened, right? So first time in the city. So it goes through the metal detector instantly. I got 3 guys coming over to me.
Oh,
is this your jacket? Yep. Is there anything in the pocket? Yep. Can you take it out? Yep. Out comes a knife. Out comes the knife. Out comes pepper spray. My fiance says, "Dear God, what else do you have in there?" That was it. It was enough. But I was shocked that they were totally fine with it. They were like, "Oh, okay, we can't let you take it in, but we'll hold it for you." They gave me a little ticket, like a deli number.
Yeah.
And it was a good transaction. I was worried that...
Yeah, I think they do that with the State House, too.
Yeah, it was nice. So
Yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised.
Oh, that's good, though.
Yeah.
See, I'm proud of you. Remembered your
know.
pepper spray, your
I know.
knife.
Yeah, so that was my story.
Yeah, so today's episode, we are going to talk about mental health. And this seems to be a thing for us this past couple of weeks, and we're going to definitely talk about that later. But I want to introduce you all to Mike Sodini. He is the founder of a nonprofit organization that intends to correct the misconceptions about the role that both mental health system and the firearms play in problems with gun violence, negligence, and suicide. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us, Mike.
Thank you for having me, ladies. Appreciate it.
So this is our first time in this studio.
Yes.
Getting you in all the way from Nevada, so.
Las Vegas.
Las
Yeah.
Vegas, yeah.
Yeah, Las
cool.
Vegas.
That's awesome. Do you want to start?
Yeah. So Walk the Talk America hit home for me when Carrie and I, we attended a public forum that was held in Barnstable regarding firearms and suicide prevention. Mental health has always been in the background. As a nurse, I know that it's very problematic in Massachusetts, in the whole country, really. And the negative stigma that's attached to it, I always knew was bad, but I really had no idea how bad it was until I really dug deep into this. And Walk the Talk America, for some reason, I was really ignorant until I went through the whole entire website and realized that it's not just for gun owners. It's for gun owners, friends and family of gun owners, anyone who lives with someone that has a gun, and even more than that. Really, it's beneficial to everybody.
Yeah, it's about mental health.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it should be.
I appreciate you saying that. It's interesting because when I first started the organization, just because as the 2A community, the Second Amendment community, we've been told so long, like, hey, be careful with mental health, because it could be a gun grab and things like that. So there's this kind of narrative that has always been reinforced. And in the very beginning, because we started in 2018, there was a lot of people that would just jump to a conclusion, right? Like, stop blaming the gun. It was important. That was why it was important for me to come forward as a person who owned a firearms company. I owned Eagle Imports, which was an importer, to kind of say, like, look, I own a firearms company. I would never do anything that would jeopardize anything that provides for my family. But in the very beginning of this, it was a long process because people would hear guns and mental health and then they would just automatically assume something negative. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that you hear stories on the news and you just cringe because you're like, oh no, not again, you know. And I think this is what you've been doing is amazing. So thank you for that.
Yeah, when I looked at one of your opening pages in 2017, Pew Research Center reported 42% of Americans either owned firearms or lived with someone who owned a firearm. And then in 2020, add 8 million brand new gun owners to that total. So this website really can benefit so many people. Do you have any idea, Mike, how many people use your website? Or I know people can call in with the different resources that are listed there, the counselors and things. Do you have any idea how many people access your website at all or use the resources?
Well, so as far as just hits on the website, we average around 22,000 a month. People going to the website. Now, what they do there, I don't know.
Yeah.
But you know, we do get thousands of people that take the mental health screenings, which I think is one of the most popular ones on there. But you know, they're free and anonymous, and that information is basically filtered through Mental Health America's system. So once they kind of go through our site to get to Mental Health America, we don't know. They don't collect any information there that isn't volunteer, like the demographic information, right? But as far as like where it comes from, that's one of the things that I kind of prided myself on, just because as firearms owners and people in the 2A community, we tend to not want to give out information.
Right, right.
You know, so
That's where I was going with the questioning. I just wondered how private it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's private from the standpoint of you don't have to give them any, like if you take a screening and you go through there and there's this page that comes up with demographic information and you don't even have to fill that out. You could just go on to the next one, right? Which that's what I really liked about it, is it's very private. And just so for anyone that's listening, it's like, how do I know it's private, right? I've been doing this now since 2018, and we've had thousands of people take screenings. And if it was something where it was like a gotcha moment, we would already know by now.
Right.
Right.
We wouldn't be around in the 2A community, believe me.
Right, right.
One of the reasons why I love our Mental Health America, or, you know, I started a partnership with them, is when I first started this, I didn't even know if there was a mental health organization out there that could be gun neutral. You know, I was literally thinking, okay, maybe all of them could be anti-gun. I got to be prepared for this. But when I found Mental Health America, they put it in paper. There was a position paper 72, which I stumbled upon, that basically said, hey, we're going to take an unpopular approach to the firearms thing. We don't believe that just because you battle mental illness or suffer from mental illness, you should lose your rights. And that includes firearms. So that was one of the openers for me. Like, it was like, okay, these are the people I need to talk to, because I'm not going to have to convince them to go to gun neutral from anti.
Right.
So.
Right.
It's I'm glad that you were talking about the screening, because I actually went on and I took the screening like 2 different people. Like, you know, I'm good, I'm healthy, I'm fine. I'm not good, I'm not healthy, I need help. And it was really awesome, because when I did that, there was a box that popped up and it said, call this number now. You know, it was a little red box, and I'm like, wow, that's really, really impressive. So I thought that was good. And then it said, are you taking it for yourself, or are you taking it for someone else? I think these screenings are just so super important, because I think, and I try to explain this to people as a gun owner myself, and doing so many things. I mean, we volunteer our time with the Women's Shooting Chapter, with the DC Project. We teach classes. We're so involved with this show as well. If something ever happened to me and I had, oh God, you know, I had a moment and I was going through something, I would be very hesitant to say anything, and I would suffer in silence. And so it's really nice to have a spot where you can go take a test and be like, what am I going to do? What do I do next? I don't want to lose my guns. If I lose my guns, I'm going to lose everything I worked so hard for, you know. And I think the community, Renee would obviously know something was going on, and I think that's so important. But having this website is really, really awesome. So, yeah.
I like the healthcare. You do a lot of training for healthcare professionals, and this syndrome that we all get stuck in, I think it's called the hero syndrome. or something. I can't remember exactly what the name of it was, but it's when healthcare workers, first responders, we're always used to taking care of people, saving people, and it's very tough to suddenly be the patient or saying that you're weak or you need help, and so we suffer from that. And it was really awesome that the videos touched on that, because I don't ever remember any video talking about that. And the healthcare workers, the first responders, the law enforcement, they're all high risk professions. They see a lot of stuff and they suffer in a lot of ways that other professions don't. And so the videos touched on all that, and I just can't rave about it enough.
It was good. It was great.
Yeah.
No, that's a. So even first responder, right? Like, let's just take the first responder thing out of it, or active duty military, or anything that calls for you to have a firearm in your job, or you go into bad situations. But just gun owners in general, right? People who carry. They may not have the badge of I'm a first responder, but many of them take on the responsibility of a first responder. Like, I had a conversation with a friend of mine that was over the weekend, and we were just hanging out talking, and we were talking about what would happen if, what would you do in that mass shooting situation? Like if it really went down, right? And he said, I would do what I had to do, right? Like he's saying that he would try to eliminate the threat, which makes him a first responder. And he was saying it in a responsible way, right? Like, and that's a thing that it affects every firearms owner, is like, we're sheepdogs. Like, we're not there to be weak, and people actually bestow that on us many times and it's unfair, right? Like, how many times are people like, yeah, if anything goes down, I'm getting behind you.
Right.
right? Like, it's a common thing and I think that adds to us being a little reluctant to come forward and say, like, I'm in trouble right now, right? Like, people look to you to be that leader, or look to you to be that person who's calm under pressure. All the training we do, being able to carry all those things, etc.
Yeah, and when I also went on your website, I was actually looking at the resource section, and I was quite impressed, because there's a lot of, there's so much in the resource section, the National Healthcare Provider Directory, and I only saw like one in Mass. And how does somebody that's not in the medical field get involved? Because I know Renee's doing something now, right?
I took the watch the videos. The videos together equal about 6 hours. Totally worth watching. And even if you're not a healthcare worker, you could get so much benefit from watching them.
Yeah, I think there's something in those videos for everyone, right? Even a firearms instructor, right? Because there's parts of it as us in the 2A community are like, okay, I could teach this part, but then there's other aspects of it that we bring in, like for mental health side. So I think there's something for everybody. But we just started the directory, and that came about from so many people contacting us, saying like, look, I'm ready to come forward and talk to somebody, but I'm a gun owner. What do you suggest? Like, and we kind of had this idea, was like, we got to stop like hiding in the shadows. Guns are something that's normal. And if we can get clinicians or mental health, not even mental health care, healthcare providers to come forward and say, well, I'm a gun owner, or I understand firearms culture, I think that's a huge step for the community, the 2A community as a whole. So that's really, as you can see, it's not very populated yet, but the way to be able to go, if you can't be involved, you're not a healthcare provider, or you're not a mental health clinician, tell as many people that that are culturally competent in firearms, or who are gun neutral, who want to be, or maybe even if somebody you want to open their eyes that they have a negative feeling about firearms, they can take that course. We get lots of clinicians that come through that course, and this is like one of my favorite things about it, when they say, I walked into this and I was anti-gun, and now I'm gun neutral. Because I'm like, okay, that's where we want you to at least go, right? You're taking the time to learn about firearms and our culture. And once you do that, and I think that's always been our hardest part as the gun community, is educating the outside of the gun community. Like, when people are ready to make that step, it's super easy, because they want to learn. It's just, that's a way to do it. So if you are a clinician or a healthcare provider, and you want to be involved, you just go through and take the courses. then we'll, give you credit. We give you the certificates, the badges, and then if you want to be listed, I think it's important, then we list you,
So what happens when you do go through these courses as a healthcare provider? When you're finished, what happens at the end? Are you able to counsel somebody in Massachusetts and direct them to the right resources? What happens next?
Well, so usually basically what we do is we give CEU credits, or people got to take it to the board to make sure that they can get CEU credits for taking the courses. But like in Nevada, right, like that's a no-brainer. Like if you take that course and you get the certificate, that goes towards your CEUs. What you choose to do after it, right, that's up to you as the individual clinician or healthcare provider. Let's say you're a pediatrician. So if you don't want to be listed on the website, you don't have to.
I see.
If you're like, I want to come forward and I want to be part of this network for people that are in, Berkeley, Massachusetts, right? Like, and they could say, if you're a firearms owner and you feel more comfortable talking to a clinician who is versed in the 2A community, has taken the cultural competence course of firearms, then you can come to me, right? And just think about like for the listener who's listening, like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Right? If I say to you, I had anxiety today and I went to the range and I shot off 1,000 rounds, right? You look at me and you go, oh, that's cool. Like, yeah, that's all you shot, or and that's normal, right? And that's what we teach, like a lot of the clinicians, that these are normal things. Like people do go to the range and shoot large amounts of rounds, if you consider 1,000 rounds or whatever, amount. And that's a normal way for people to relieve stress, right? So these are the things that, you're going into a situation where you're talking to a clinician or you're talking to a healthcare provider that's not automatically going to jump to some weird conclusion just because you're doing the normal things that people in the firearms community do.
Right, and that's what the gun culture education provides.
Right.
Yep, it gives you that background, so you're not, thinking red flag stuff when someone says to you, oh, I took my kiddo to the range and blew off some steam. I was really stressed out and we shot a few hundred rounds. Someone who doesn't understand gun culture would say, okay, this guy's weird. First of all, he brought his kid to the range. That's weird. I think we got to get, social services involved. Like that has happened.
Right.
That happens all the time. So the beauty of this website is every single clinician or resource on it has had this gun culture education.
Yeah, and I think it's great. Yeah, I think it's awesome. And I also noticed that you have a bunch of printouts too. So like we teach classes together on a regular basis, and I think it's awesome because
I printed one out, but I can't grab it because I'm all tied up here.
I printed them out too. I didn't bring it with me, and I think it's great.
Talk about our cards, like the
Yes.
How do you get those? The cards.
To be honest with you, we have it on there for people to print it out. We also send them out for free.
Yeah.
So we have a large network of firearms trainers that contact us, and they'll say like, hey, I have this course, and that's one of the reasons.
I'm definitely going to be emailing you.
Yeah. I mean,
Can we put our request in right now?
Yeah.
No,
I can send you out a package that has plenty of cards and.
I think it's great because I mentioned over the weekend I was at an advocacy class and I was talking about how like gun shops, anybody that does firearm classes should definitely have something like this. I mean, we talk about suicide prevention with our class, but these cards are fabulous. I mean, it just gives you a safe place to go.
Yeah.
And it's somewhere where you can talk about the gun culture and realize that we're okay,
Right.
we're good people.
It's an absolute quick place to be able to talk to someone that is educated in the firearm culture, which is very different from any other program I've ever known about.
Mike, you even have in the resource section, says Kids for Kings, and it's for the youth. Can you touch upon...
Kids to Kings.
Yeah, Kids to Kings, sorry.
Kids to Kings. Yeah, Devin Perkins, I was at, probably 2018. I was at an NRA show, and this is when I had Eagle, so I was there for Eagle with my own booth, for my firearms company. And Devin had heard of Walk Talk America, and he actually said something like, "Hey, have you ever thought about doing something like specifically for underprivileged, underserved communities?" And I kind of jokingly said, "Nobody needs another white hero, Devin. Like, why don't you do it, and I'll back you." And it was really cool because like a year later, he came with this concept, and he was like,
awesome.
"I call it Kids to Kings." And here's what I want to do. I want to introduce firearms in a healthy manner to these young kids, and basically teach them about PTSD and the things that they struggle with in those particular neighborhoods. So that's what that is, and this pilot program's going on right now in Atlanta, and I'm very proud of him. But just because I know what it takes to start like your nonprofit organization. I mean, obviously he's through Walk the Talk America. But he's really putting this thing together, and he's got about 16 kids right now, and it's something that we can scale up and kind of do it across the country. But just once again, like there are certain neighborhoods that don't, when they think of firearms, it's always in a negative light, right? And that's not fair either, because everybody has the right to defend themselves.
That's right.
And it doesn't have to be just what the media shows you about firearms in your neighborhood. And obviously, education is important. Getting these kids at a young age and then letting them understand that they do have a 2A right, and not everything with a firearm is just something tragic, I think is super important.
Mm-hmm. We got about almost 5 minutes or so. Is there anything that you want to
I did want to say this, we're talking about the negative stigma that's attached with mental health and how I'm just learning how deep it runs. I posted on my Facebook page, Walk the Talk America, the link for it, and just like a little write-up, and I tagged some people in it. Some people were really excited about it, said they were going to check it out. Other people, my phone was ringing. I don't know why you tagged me. I don't have anything wrong with me. I'm removing the tag. And I'm like, I just tagged you because you're in healthcare and you know a lot of people, and I thought this would be a great thing to, to share for educational reasons. We're educators, right? And it was mind-blowing to me that the stigma is so negative that an educated person in the healthcare field would not want anything to do with it because they were afraid that, someone would think that there was something wrong with them, and that's why I tagged them. And it was just unbelievable.
And I think also, if you have a family member that's going through that, they're like, shh, you can't talk about this, and it's unfortunate because it's nothing wrong with them. We need to help them.
It's funny, if I put a post on there about blood pressure and how to lower your blood pressure and tagged a bunch of people, not one person would call me and blow up my phone and be upset, or that I tagged them in this blood pressure post. But talk about mental health and people go crazy about it.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's one of and it's twice as hard for gun owners, right? Just because we have something real to lose. Not that the stigma enough could, prevent people from having clearance or losing their job. But that's the whole point of Walk Talk America, right? Is like, I'm not trying to help people when they're in crisis. I'm actually trying to make them aware. So when you buy a firearms, like a Ruger or an Arms Corps or a Bursa, and you open that box, you see this card, which we've gotten this card into many gun manufacturers.
I love it.
I love that.
Yeah, like this is like to prevent you from going to stage 4. Like this is I'm trying to catch you at stage 1 or 2. So there's nothing ever tragic that happened, right? We catch them early, we cast a wide net, try to get upstream to prevent the unpredictable, and do our best. So yeah, I hear you though. It's
having the Walk the Talk America resource, to me, is equivalent is knowing where your tourniquet is. You can't, if you need a tourniquet and you can't find it, by the time you find it, it's too late. You have to have your tools in front of you to know where they are, line them up, so if anything ever happens. And so it's that important.
Yeah, and know that there are people there that can help you too.
Right.
So, Mike, is there anything else that we're missing that you want to touch upon before we wrap it up? Because I think this is so super important, and what you're doing is amazing. So if there's anything that we could do to help out.
No, I think I've said it. I just want to touch on one thing. Just I think like as educators and people who train, like you ladies do, right? We're always big on safety. We always hit that mark, and then we always explain to people like about tourniquets and like being prepared. And then the third thing we always talked about was never use your firearm unless you're absolutely positive. And what happens to you in a defensive shooting situation, right? Like we always drilled all those three things into the heads. But now I'm really proud of the 2A community and a lot of the trainers, because now we're closing the circle saying, look, you're more likely to use your gun on yourself than you are in a defensive shooting situation. So we need to have a suicide prevention plan and be cognizant of our mental health as gun owners, right? Like the fact that we're coming forward now and owning that and letting the people know in the class, like who are sponges, right? Like they're just listening. I think that's great. And that just goes back to, the 2A community being the best people that I've ever met in my life.
Oh my God, I wish I found it a lot earlier. So,
Well, thank you again, Mike. And I want to ask anyone that's listening, if you have any ideas for upcoming shows, reach out to us, sistersinarms2022@gmail.com. And Mike, do you have an email you'd like to let our listeners know about?
If they want to email, it's info@WTTA.org, or, find us on social media at Walk the Talk US. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Perfect.
yeah, I watched a couple of YouTube videos that you had, and it was really awesome. I know you work with some amazing people, Rob Pincus being one of them. And what was your partner's name? Do you have somebody that you work with as well who's a...
Yeah, Jake Wiskershin.
Yep.
He's our firearms clinician, 2A concealed carry holder. He was one of the first people to kick down the door and say, like, I'm a clinician and I own a firearm. So he's got great videos out there.
Yeah, I
Awesome.
saw a video with you both speaking. It was awesome. So, yeah, I think this is super important. It's something that we need to discuss. Mental health
Yeah.
is a thing.
Definitely.
And we real quick, we just went to a listening tour a couple weeks ago, and it was regarding mental health and suicide prevention and guns. So we went there and we plugged you to everybody there.
We took your website to the panel.
Yep. it was
Yep.
awesome.
So yeah.
But thank you very much. We're running out of time, so I want to thank you very, very much, Mike, for joining us, and of course our viewers. And this is our 9th episode, so please join us for our 10th, and we're looking forward to it. If you have any questions, don't forget to email us at
sistersinarms2022@gmail.com.
yeah. Stay
Stay safe and stay vigilant.
That's right.